India. And I should say that if there is one national organization which has transformed both application and fundamental research all over the country in all areas from atomic physics, nuclear physics, astronomy, astrophysics, cancer research, cancer treatment, life sciences, agriculture, it is the Department of Atomic Energy. And I think that really is amazing what it has done across this sector. And it has done this by two things, which we mustn't lose track of. That's focus and excellence, demand for excellence. Now, this is absolutely fantastic, and I think many of us should be very, very grateful for what DAE has done over the years. And part of it is that it has not lost, despite the passage of time, its initial cultural impetus about what all this means. So let me just very briefly tell you what that impetus is. On one hand, as you've heard, both at the introduction and from our eminent speakers, the range of what the Department of Atomic Energy does internally, that has been possible, and right from the start, by its interaction with the outside ecosystem. And to interact with the outside ecosystem, the DAE established, chronologically the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research came earlier, but the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research has been a very major driving force, as has been later on all the other autonomous institutes of the Department of Atomic Energy. And I'll come to that a little more, but in that context, what is happening today is that the world is changing enormously rapidly. And we have a certain ratio, and at the numerator, we have all the achievements of the DAE superfamily. What the DAE does, its public sector undertaking does, what BARC does, what IGCAR does, the Tata Memorial Center, NISER, Institute for Math Science, Harish Chandra Institute, TIFR, and so on and so forth. And those achievements are cumulative over time, and they are enormous and they're significant. But the problem is really the denominator. The denominator, we have costs. Every year, a significant amount of public money goes into the Department of Atomic Energy, as it does to all our research organizations. So that is relentless. That's not based on excellence, it's based on a certain sum which comes every year. And excellence is a small fraction of our entire input in the numerator. The second factor in the denominator is time. Time is even more relentless than money. Money is uncertain, but time is certain. It just goes like an arrow and keeps going. So when people demand to know what the Department of Atomic Energy has done, depending on who they are, they look not just at the numerator, but they look at the denominator. What have you done for the amount of money we have put in and for the time that has gone by? And that is where our great challenges are going forward. The days when we had substantial amount of resources and substantial amount of time to embark on missions which no one else dared to and no one else could, those days are changing. We must have that mindset and we must continue that. But along with that, we need a new way of looking at the world today. The world today is changing at such a rapid and unpredictable pace. And our success is measured not only from what effort we put in and what success we have for the amount of resources we get and all the issues we have in dealing with our systems, but also by what is happening in the world and what the world is changing. And the pace of that changing world requires perhaps, in addition to our standard approach of doing things, a new shift. And what is that new shift? That new shift brings me back to the origins of the Department of Atomic Energy, and indeed also of the origins of many aspects of the US nuclear program. Two people were very significant. One, let me first mention Edward Teller, a controversial figure for a variety of reasons. But Teller had a view that missions and secrecy need to have two components to it. They should be like a semi-permeable membrane. That is, you have an internal organization structure where information from outside flows in, but information from core projects which you want to keep confidential don't flow out. And to that end, there were areas outside the core Department of Energy which had massive free and open interactions with scientists of all kinds and scientists from all countries. That resulted in a constant renewal of big mission projects inside the US. It was, I don't know, it was a sort of about the same time, and I don't know whether Homi Bhabha was influenced by this, but the combination of having the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research and the Department of Atomic Energy's core institutions, which later became the VRC, was a stroke of genius. I remember the early days when I was a graduate student in TIFR. I used to see names on the famous fourth floor of TIFR, which graduate students were not allowed to go but sneaked in. You would see names like Dr. Ramana, MGK Menon, who had long since left TIFR, who are still there. And you would see people from VRC coming in regularly. Now, that has to be renewed across all our autonomous institutions substantially going forward. And I would plead for a greater interaction, not just a utilitarian interaction. The utilitarian interaction is important. What missions can TIFR and NISER and other places take up, which is of core value to DAE? That's important. We should not exclude that. But there should be a way by which that the entire DAE Autonomous Institute system feeds into the DAE core programs and has an understanding of what needs to be done. Let me conclude by saying, how is that going to be done? It's all very well to say this needs to be done. We have at one hand within the DAE family structures which are mission mode and therefore have a certain reporting structure and a certain mechanism of functioning. And we have at the other end of the spectrum fundamental research labs where people are really come and go, think about various things, do what they're excited about, and so on and so forth. So this playfulness on one side, which is not controlled and should not be controlled, and this focus on the other side, how can we possibly link them? Now that we have to have a practical way of doing it. It's not just enough to say, you come to my place, I'll go to your place. But I would suggest that each of the major DAE facilities have zones. For example, at IG Card, there are zones in the residential area of Kalpakam. And those zones should be open academic zones, similarly near BRC. Similarly at RRCAT, those zones should be open academic zones where a substantial number of people, researchers from outside those core areas, from our autonomous institutions, are based over there for interactions at the first space, but also perhaps for open experimental facilities as part of their institutions. This way you will have a constant mechanism without diluting out the core mission-oriented focus of these organizations, but you also have an organic link. And of course, the link should flow the other way around also. So are these solutions feasible? They are feasible, but they are very difficult to implement because they require us to, first of all, not get caught in the chinta of our days, which overwhelms us. There are too many things to do. It requires dedicated leadership to bring this about. It requires dedicated planning to make sure that this is culturally imbibed, and it will take a long time. But it's precisely the daring to do difficult things, to do almost impossible things, which sets DAE apart from all other organizations. And it is that courage and daring which we need to look at again at the new challenges which face us today and see how we can take them forward. Thank you very much.